Funding for Elwood City Limits is brought to you by Christopher I. Phil, Dan Mike Dawson Silva, Ian Collis, John DuLong, Josias Melendez, Leanne S., Light Relentless, Poolside 123, and Teresa. Become a patron for us today at patreon.com/Elwood City Limits. Slap the thigh, bro.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since there's no place to go, we're watching Arthur on a Friday.
Man,
and it's snowing outside.
You are in a good mood. You're singing us a little bit of a crooner special here, aren't you?
Well, I got my winter tires put on yesterday. Call me Nostradamus, because I didn't peek at the weather once. I had no idea that today was going to be as tumultuous weather-wise as it was. I just had an inkling. You know how they say you can feel it in your bones.
I did the same thing too, except I got mine in on Tuesday, and then I found out that one of them was flat. So on Wednesday I had to take one off, put the spare on, put air in that, this whole rigmarole. But I'm glad that I went through all of that because yes, now I have my winter tires on, and we are in the middle of what is now, I believe, turning into ice pellets, but a huge snowstorm that has waylaid traffic here in Atlantic, Canada, and I believe on the east coast of the United States as well.
We, people around here are pretty, I would say, almost infamous for being used to the harsh weather conditions and heavy snowfall and stuff like this. But when it happens this early in November, the problem is a lot of people don't have their winter tires put on, and getting into school this morning, it was sheer chaos. It was like the world was coming to an end. So I'm glad to hear that you were as prepared as I was, Will.
Yes, indeed. You can't be too careful in Atlantic Canada, and also shout out to everybody, as I said, on the East Coast of the United States. I'm to understand it's no picnic over there as well. I was noticing that Giant Bomb's Vinny Caravella on Twitter was in a particularly
I saw that as
situation.
well.
Well, yes, welcome to Elwood City Limits. This is the perfect thing to do, as Lucas said, when it's when the weather outside is the way it is, whether it's ice pellets, rain, or snow. Just curl up with some Arthur and have yourself a good time, and then curl up with us on your podcast feed, and we'll talk about the episode of Arthur.
Bust up the rum and eggnog, get the old Yule log. We're taking a trip to Elwood City Limits.
Rum and eggnog, that sounds good. Might have to get that later. Well, speaking of Vinny Caravella, the Giant Beast Cast, we actually have something that is similar to what they offer. In fact, Lucas, this is going to be a first for us. So pick it up if you follow me. It's time for our first ever corrections. Yeah, it's true. I
wasn't sure if you were going to do the live Foley work.
Yeah, I don't know if I could get that exact. I'd have to get that exact trumpet noise, and I don't know if I could find it. But we do actually have a correction that I wanted to start with here from a couple of episodes ago. This comes from a Tumblr user by the name of Huge Drawing Nerd, who sent us this.
HDN.
HDN.
Represent.
HDN is up in our business. But still, I kind of like this. So HDN, Huge Drawing Nerd, says, Mrs. Parizeau is not a bear or whatever else Will said, so it's a correction for me. She's an aardvark, so fair enough. Also, that wasn't the landlord. That was the janitor. You see the landlord. This is from Francine's building from a couple of episodes ago.
Oh.
Francine Goes to War. You see the landlord in another episode where Arthur and Francine make a bet to see who can use less water, and neither the landlord or the janitor appear again. The only time Mrs. Parizeau gets another line is when she hands out prunes on Halloween in a special.
Yikes. I all the goodwill Mrs. Parizeau earned in her episode has now been washed away with that information.
Unfortunately. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you next, Mrs. Parizeau. So it was fun while it lasted. And thank you, Huge Drawing Nerd, for the correction. We got to make that little reference. We also
don't worry. That's what's great about our new segment, Throwaway Character of the Week. there's always a new one. So we could put Mrs. Parizeau in the past. We could put the janitor of Francine's building in the past, because once again this week we have a brand new throwaway character of the week.
Ooh, I'm interested to see who it is. I mean, and then will we look back on people like the janitor in Francine's building and say, I'm so effing grateful for my ex.
Definitely.
So
Arthur's uncle, same.
One taught me patience. One taught me what?
Yeah, someone's got to do that meme, but it's like Arthur's uncle, the janitor, and like Toady, and it's like one taught me pain, one taught me patience.
Please go ahead. What's your address there on Twitter?
Oh, it's Lucas_Mancini.
So feel free, everybody. And feel free to get at us by our email. That's elwoodcitylimits@gmail.com. This week we have one from Judy T. And Judy says, hey again, was watching Goosebumps, classic Canadian show Goosebumps from the 90s. Found an episode with Michael Kalos, a.k.a. the original voice of DW. It was
what?
Yeah, it was super weird because I had it on the background and kept hearing DW's voice. Like, he literally sounds like DW in the episode, which I think is because production for Goosebumps and Arthur was happening around the same time. I'm sure you're right, Judy.
Same time and in Canada.
The episode is One Day at Horrorland, parts 1 and 2. If anyone's interested in watching
No way.
It's still on Netflix until the 19th of November, at least for Americans. I don't know if Goosebumps is on Netflix Canada. I feel
it used to be. I'm not sure if it is anymore. I will say that the Horrorland episodes of Goosebumps are infamous. They're probably some of the most well-known Goosebumps episodes and books.
Yeah, and that's one of the ones that ends with like a not so child-friendly cliffhanger. Like they're in mortal danger. Oh, look at that! Goosebumps the show is on Canadian Netflix.
Ooh, is Are You Afraid of the Dark still on Canadian Netflix?
Was it ever?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, corroborating.
The Ryan Gosling classic.
I'm afraid not, no.
Oh, unfortunate. Well, we still have Goosebumps, which is probably, in all honesty, the better of the two, even though they're both of questionable quality.
I don't
know.
To go back and watch. I feel like I don't really have as much of a memory for this. I definitely watched more Goosebumps as a kid. I think I just found it more interesting. But I feel like there are some people who would definitely stand up for Are You Afraid of the Dark more so in terms of... It
varies so much episode by episode. There's such rough episodes of both.
Oh, yeah.
Like the whole thing, like even a good Goosebumps or good Are You Afraid of the Dark episode is still like I don't know about this. The books are very good though.
Yeah, the grading on
and I haven't seen the Jack Black films either.
The first one is good. It's a totally pretty good family film. I think I would give that a single thumbs up. It's totally fine if you're watching it with like younger kids or with your family. It's like not too scary and it's not too like awful. It's okay. So yeah, that's a little for that for you. I don't know about there's that similar looking movie that came out recently, The House with a Clock in Its Walls.
What?
Heard that was okay. It's also like based off of like a children's horror novel directed by Eli Roth actually.
Wait, what?
Yeah, really. And it's like
from the studio that brought you Green Inferno comes.
And
The House with a Clock in Its Walls.
And Jack Black stars in it too. So it kind of has sort of that Goosebumps movie flavor. I don't know, dude.
I'll have to check it out.
I think I heard middling to pretty good reviews for it. So if you've seen that movie, let us know, I guess. And from Canadian children's television, we're going to be moving to American children's. Well, sort of. Arthur has kind of dual citizenship in that sense. But I'd say that since the reality of Arthur takes place in the United States, Mary Moo Cow definitely counts as an American endeavor, which is what we're going to be talking about big time today. The Last of Mary Moo Cow, this one's called. This is unquestionably the most focus that Mary Moo Cow has gotten so far in this. Did you have any expectations for what this was kind of going to be about?
No, this is one of those episodes where from both of these episodes, I only remembered a single moment from both of these episodes. So I was going into these ones mostly blind. But you could already tell this episode piques your interest just with the title card. The Last of Mary Moo Cow. is like, what could that conceivably mean? It's a real death to Smoochie type imagery starts like filling your head. So I was already curious.
If there was somebody on this podcast who was going to make a death to Smoochie reference, I would have bet $10 that it would have been me before you. It just seems more.
One time I tried to look. At some point in my life, I made it my mission to watch every movie that Ed Norton's ever been in.
Oh.
And so that's how I came across Death to Smoochie.
An admirable endeavor. Did you manage to do it?
I think so. Ed Norton's in a lot of weird movies that aren't that good, but I really, really do like his good movies. So I think I did do it because he's not in that many. So
yeah, he's one of my faves. I remember I was really upset when they recast him after the Incredible Hulk in the Marvel movies, but I think it was for the better. I think Mark Ruffalo does better in that role. Okay, so we start off here. Arthur's got a ruse going on. He's changing all the clocks to 4 o'clock in the house. He's changing all the manual clocks in the house to 4 o'clock, by the way.
Arthur's using what I like to call the Paddy Murphy strat, where if you're not familiar with the Great Big Sea song, the night that Paddy Murphy died, all of Paddy Murphy's friends, when they're getting drunk to commemorate their close friend's untimely demise, they all go over to his poor widowed wife's house and change all the clocks so that when it's quarter after, I think it's a quarter after 3 or quarter after 4, it's like at an ungodly hour that they're all drinking and destroying this woman's house. Mrs. Murphy couldn't tell the time because they changed all the clocks and they argued it was 9. And so Arthur's essentially doing that, but in order to trick DW into thinking it's not time for Mary Moo Cow.
Well, because
she always watches it at 3:30.
Well, that's how they show their respect for Mary Moo Cow. That's how they show their honor and their pride. I was going to that and I was like, is this going to work in terms of the amount of syllables? Mary Moo Cow and Paddy Murphy, same amount of syllables. So Arthur's changing all the clocks to 4 o'clock because 3:30 is normally DW's TV time when she watches Mary Moo Cow, but Arthur also has Dark Bunny that he wants to watch at the same time. We get a lot of Dark Bunny in this episode too. But I figured that this wasn't going to work, and it actually doesn't for the reason I thought so, is because DW doesn't know how to read clocks.
Yeah, DW says, lucky for me, I can't tell time, and just turns on the TV to check anyway, and then learns that Arthur changed all the clocks, which she complains to her mom about.
And Arthur kind of in this cold open is talking about how DW is obsessed with Mary Moo Cow and always has to watch it every day. And we get a couple of cutaways where DW is like doing various things like in a sandbox or at the grocery store with her mom. And it's just like, oh no, it's 3:30. Mary Moo Cow's on. And it gave me clear flashbacks to the late 90s when 4:30 came around and me and my friends had to stop doing what we were doing and run home because Pokemon was on.
I was just going to say, that show for me was also Pokemon. It was Pokemon at 4:30, and then on Fridays at, I think, 5 or something, there was Transformers. I did that from Transformers Armada into Transformers Energon. I watched the entirety of both of those shows' runs in linear order as each new episode came out each Friday. I remember I have vivid memories of sprinting from a friend's house in order to make it home to watch Transformers. But also, Pokemon was a similar show like that for me where I was always like anticipating when it would come on.
There are still a few times that I remember specifically for what time a show came on. It's like Pokemon was 4:30, Scooby-Doo was on Teletoon at 6 o'clock, and Dragon Ball Z was on YTV at 9 and 9:30, back-to-back episodes.
That's right. Naruto wouldn't come on YTV until like 11. You had to stay up late to watch Naruto. There's a part in these cutaways where DW, she sprints out of the sandbox. She's running from places to go catch her show. There's a part where there's a TV repair duck in Arthur's house fixing their TV. And DW's like, you're taking too long. It's 3:30. And she fixes the TV quicker than the duck, which is like, so DW is like a TV repair savant?
I guess, but this also made me think of like, hey, remember when TV repair was like a viable career option?
That also had me thinking about this. Like nowadays, if you TV breaks, you just buy a new one.
Pretty much, or like there isn't a dedicated repair service to it. It's like it's like Red Letter Media and VCR repair.
That's right, lightning fast.
The actual episode starts off when DW finds out that Mary Moo Cow is going to be having live appearance at the Mill Creek Mall at Elwood City. It starts off with like everybody else in the house doing something different, and then we get what's got to be the highest pitch scream that we've ever gotten from DW. It's a proper little girl squeal.
There's a narrative bookend in here where when we see after DW screams, she's sort of on the ground with the popcorn spilled out of her lap. Remember that image for later on.
Oh yeah, good point. You're quicker to catch these visual cues than I am. I do. So GW is like on the ground with her popcorn and just says, "She's coming," as everybody runs in. I loved this where it's like Mary Moo Cow has to set up for the recorded read of where she's going to be. But she doesn't say them herself. So basically, she's like, "And you can see me at," and the video freezes, and just a man's voice just goes, "Thursday at the Mill Creek Mall in Elwood City, 3 o'clock." And I thought that was really funny.
There's a lot of like public access TV humor in this episode, which I always appreciate. And I love it when, especially considering that Arthur is put on by PBS, I love it when they get like self-referential like that. Like Mary Moo Cow is obviously at the time, it would have been a Barney stand-in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of poking fun at that genre of kids' television, and they do a really good job of it. I guess the equivalent would be like the only time I hear of like kids show live appearances, it's usually the Paw Patrol gang. Like, come see the Paw Patrol gang at Chapters and stuff like that.
Yeah, and my niece recently went to go see the Wiggles when they were in town.
Oh, I wonder if the Wiggles are like the Blue Man Group, where there's not just one, there's like all these like different sets of Wiggles that are on tours. Or if there's just one Wiggles that goes everywhere.
I think it might just be the one, but that's a good question. If there were more than one set of Wiggles, I certainly couldn't tell you. I've never seen.
I know they switch up the roster. Like there's a female Wiggle now.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I think they still have that guy that had narcolepsy. Second episode of Elwood City Movements in a row where we talk about narcolepsy. But do you remember that one Wiggle? He was always falling asleep.
Wait, did he had shoot narcolepsy?
Yeah, the purple one. I think he was the weird one, and he was always falling asleep.
Okay, I've not seen minute one of the Wiggles. So DW has this imagination that she's going to meet Mary Moo Cow and they're going to become best friends, and her expectations are sky high. I loved how, so in DW's imagination, Mary Moo Cow like takes a shine to her. They're dancing together, and then Mary Moo Cow just takes her to her the barn that she lives on. I love how in DW's imagination, Mary Moo Cow is still a costume. Like, she looks the same as she does on the TV, but you'd think that maybe she'd be imagining Mary Moo Cow as like a real cow, but you could still see like the flaps, the seams where the mask goes on and where it's clearly a costume. So I found that was kind of interesting.
I've always thought an underrated aspect of the Mary Moo Cow character are the cat puppets.
Yeah.
That are very much like Harry Potter Puppet Pals style. Like, you can see the wrists manipulating the kitty puppets.
Yeah. Good. Yes, I remember us talking about this in the cold open where like Mary Moo Cow was in Arthur's room. And you were talking about that too. So DW is very excited to go, and she's like picking out different dresses that she could potentially wear if she goes to live with Mary Moo Cow. But unfortunately, they go all the way to the mall, and then they are met by a couple of sobbing children, and they find out that the Mary Moo Cow appearance has been canceled.
It's funny the way I was thinking about this. I was like, I was trying to, because again, I was pretty much in the dark with this episode. I wasn't entirely sure where it was going. And so in my mind, I was wondering if like the Mary Moo Cow facsimile was going to be like a dude with like 5 o'clock shadow with Mary Moo Cow's like head off, and he's like smoking. And he's like, "Hey kids, it's me, Mary Moo Cow." And that's why the kids were crying, because they came to the realization that Mary Moo Cow wasn't real.
Oh yeah.
That's where I kind of thought this was going. And I was like, wow, that's crazy if that's what happens. But no, it's just that it's canceled.
No, actually, they're pretty good at keeping the Mary Moo Cow kayfabe in this episode, I gotta say. The cowfabe. So DW, unfortunately, comes back. She hasn't seen Mary Moo Cow. Arthur and Buster are joyous when DW is going to the live appearance, because that means that they'll get to watch Dark Bunny. And we do get a little bit more of Dark Bunny as they are watching it. And it's like in
small visual joke in this Dark Bunny segment, because we get to see sort of Dark Bunny's rogues gallery, and we see definitely like it's like, okay, that guy looks like the Joker but an Arthur character. Okay, this person kind of looks like Catwoman but an Arthur character. And then we get like the Arthur version of the Riddler, but instead of a question mark on his chest, he has like the email @ symbol.
Does he?
And I'm like, what? Yes, I had to go back and pause this because I was like, wait a minute, like what is this guy's power? Like he sends you spam? Like what is up with email, man?
He harasses you on Twitter.
Maybe he's like way into like cryptocurrency now, and he's like, I will steal the world's Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm looking at this because I definitely recognize the Joker, rats, and okay, I see the Catwoman one, and let me see this @ symbol. It's coming up. Oh, there it is! Oh my gosh, look at that! I can't believe I didn't catch on to that. That's really funny. So yeah,
I will send you jib jab animations I created on my office email account.
I just invested $100 million into TikTok.
Hey, as far as I'm concerned, that's a solid investment. TikTok's coming up, baby. I'm big on TikTok.
Are you on TikTok?
Oh, I am so on TikTok. It's filled the void that Vine has left in my life.
Oh, man.
There's a giant... I never realized how much a giant Vine-sized hole there was in my heart, because I look up Vine compilations pretty much every time I'm at a party and people have like a Chromecast and they don't know what to put on. I'll just throw out a Vine compilation.
Yeah.
But the thing you forget about Vine compilations is it's kind of like a curated just one after the other of all the good Vines.
Yeah.
And there's something that you miss from when Vine was around. There'd be one Vine that became really popular, and then the rest of your timeline would be other Vines referencing that Vine for like the day until they moved on to the next big thing. Mm-hmm. And so now TikTok has brought that back, and it's like, wow, I never knew going to the washroom could be so entertaining, because I just whip out the TikTok and watch a couple videos real quick.
I'm tempted, I gotta be honest with you, because I shamelessly, I miss Vine so much. And half of my YouTube...
Let me tell you something. Once you get that algorithm going, because at first it just serves you up whatever, but it can really tell like which ones you watch the full of, which ones you hit like on, and like which ones you scroll past. And so the algorithm starts really curating the TikToks to the things you find funny. Let me tell you something. TikTok... Shouts out to TikTok. TikTok is doing me well. I love it.
So the thing that's holding me back from it is... I feel like it kind of has a reputation of like...
cringe content.
Yes, that, but also like it kind of seems like it's aimed for a bit of a younger audience, and I feel like somebody my age who's on TikTok is like, what is this old guy doing here with all these like younger kids? And I'm like, I don't want to seem like a big bearded creepo. Well,
so I'll say this about that: I would never post a TikTok myself. I'm purely going in as an observer. But I you know what? We're getting deep into the psyche here, but a part of me does feel like I'm in on some forbidden young people knowledge, because like all of the jokes, this lets you know about like what kind of audience is on TikTok right now. Right. It's like they reference Minecraft on TikTok as like a punchline.
Oh yeah,
probably the way we would reference like Halo 1.
Yeah,
like, oh, remember when we were kids and we played Minecraft all the time? It's like, oh yeah, like when I was 16. Like, so they're referencing Minecraft as this like nostalgia thing about when they were really really little, but these are like adults. But I find it fascinating, and again, this is my holy grail to keep me young, is to just know what the Zoomers are talking about, and it's a rich vein for that. Let me tell you.
Well, I think you saying that, and of course referencing my dearly departed Vine, I think maybe I'm gonna have to dip my toe in here, and probably not, maybe not into content, but maybe I'll have to give it a whirl based on your suggestion. I guess there's no reason to be afraid of it. I shouldn't be afraid of the creeping onset towards old age that I'm currently embroiled in. Anyway, where the heck were we?
DW comes back.
What's that?
DW comes back, and she swipes the popcorn.
She does.
And turns on Mary Moo Cow.
She turns it over to Mary Moo Cow. She's pissed. I mean, rightly so. But then, as she watches the episode of Mary Moo Cow, Mary Moo Cow says it's a very special episode because it's our last episode, and DW is kind of confused. And
Oh my gosh. Arthur... This whole moment is so funny, the way it's played. Like, there's like 3 aspects to this that are like hilarious. There's one, DW is kind of confused about what's going on. 2, it's the enthusiasm which Mary Moo Cow and her like quartet of children say, like, it's the last episode, LAST, like enthusiastically as they would deliver anything else on Mary Moo Cow. And then there's like Arthur's sheer enthusiasm and the way he's like rubbing it in, how happy he's, like so delighted that Mary Moo Cow is coming to an end, and DW's like slowly realizing what's going on, and she's like bewildered. She's like, what? Mary Moo Cow? And Arthur's like, yeah, it's over. I found this like gut-bustingly funny.
Arthur's a great antagonist for DW, which is a rare kind of turnaround. But yeah, he really gets on her case, just like, Mary Moo Cow is history.
He's like so excited.
It's great. You're right. And they even do the LAST, that spells last, no more Mary Moo Cow.
Yeah, Arthur and like Buster are like singing it as DW runs out of the room, like distraught.
And this made me think about how you never realize how hard it is to explain things that you and I mean, we've been watching TV for decades, so we know that exactly what it means, like when a show's canceled or when it goes off the air. But this is DW, she's 4 years old. It's her first experience with like a show getting canceled. So it's kind of hard to explain it to her, of just like, why can't they make new episodes? Like, well, there are reasons, but can't really understand them at your age, unfortunately.
Yeah, Arthur's mom's explaining it to her, and she's like, every show gets canceled, DW. Obviously, Arthur's mom has never heard of The Walking Dead.
She's never heard of Arthur either, as we...
That's true. Arthur's a good show, is the thing.
Oh, got him.
We get DW is like sort of just surfing through static, like channel 3, 4, 5, static on every channel, and it's like a dream sequence. She's in this sort of oh gosh, what's that painter's name where everything's droopy?
Salvador Dali.
Yeah, she's in this like kind of Salvador Dali world where like the house is all warped, very German expressionist. As DW is walking around in her dream, she's playing outside, which is represented as like this horrible thing that you have to do at 3:30 instead of watching Mary Moo Cow. In fact, I forgot about this amazing line that Arthur's dad has. It's like his only line in the whole episode, where he's like, "DW, just think about all the other fun things you can do now at 3:30."
It's a total parent line of just like, yeah, maybe now you can go outside or something, which is of course not exactly as fun as watching TV.
Well, exactly. In DW's head, it's portrayed as this nightmare where, like, there's sad faces on the side posts. She's walking around. She gets a basketball, and the basketball immediately deflates and talks to her and says, it's just not the same without Mary Moo Cow. And then her bike's talking, too.
And they have, like, this really sad oboe music. It's great. I love the good use of an oboe here and there, and I thought this was really well done. And before she goes to sleep, before this dream sequence, DW is like she's like, "Mom, Dad, you're gonna punish Arthur, right?" It's great stuff. So Arthur.
Speaking of great stuff, we get her introduced to another favorite Arthur in-canon show of mine, and that is Stock Market Today.
So yeah, DW, she is keeping her 3:30 time slot. I love this. Arthur walks in with a bowl of popcorn. He's ready to watch Dark Bunny, but DW is like, no, it's still my TV time. Mom said I can keep this time until I recover from my trauma.
And she's watching Stock Market Today, which is like hilarious. Like, hypothetically, like a show running down the stock market is, if you had to design in a lab what would be the most boring television for a 4-year-old, it would probably be that. And the fake stock, like, if you listen to what the broadcaster is saying, it's the fake stock delivery is very funny as well.
And it is really like, what's the most boring thing we can think of? I remember like when I was younger and my parents would get like the Globe and Mail, and it's just like the most boring thing that it seemed in the world to me was Report on Business.
Yeah, at least Mad Money was exciting because he would smash things.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's just very, very much this. I believe, what animal would you say the presenter is? Rabbit?
No. She's got the pointy ears. She's like a cat, I think.
Okay, and she's just presenting.
They're longer than I remembered. Now I'm going back. I don't know.
Anyway, she's presenting just stock news against like this ticker background, and it's just as dry as possible. And DW is just watching it out of spite. And Nadine is like begging her to do something else because of how boring it is. But she gets a flash of inspiration from Stock Market Today through news about a petition. So she decides to draw up a petition to get people to sign to bring back Mary Moo Cow. So she gets some signatures from her preschool class because they can sign in finger paint. There's a great one where she has a table outside the house and she's like, save Mary Moo Cow 5 cents. And Arthur's like, you don't charge people to sign a petition.
And then DW's got a great line that's like, adults only care about when adults have to pay, they think something's important.
Yeah, it's not outside the realm of possibility, but it's also like in the culture we have today where it's like there's an online petition for everything. Imagine if one was like pay $2 to protest the Detective Pikachu trailer or something.
Oh, okay. I forgot all about that. That was going to be our intro before the snowstorm. This is the time. Let's get into it, Will. Elwood City Limits podcast is on hold. This is now the Detective Pikachu debate show. Opening arguments. Here's me. Detective Pikachu is my friend. I love him, and I want one. I don't care if he's making unfunny Deadpool jokes. I love him. He's fuzzy. I love that Jigglypuff is somehow covered with pig's skin, like thin layer of white pig hair and like pig skin. Gosh. I love that Mr. Mime just looks like a weird CGI human man with no nose.
Oh.
I love that Psyduck looks high out of his tree. I love Detective... Okay, this is gonna... Whatever opinion you had of me so far, Will, this might be the thing that changes your opinion the most of me for the worse.
I'm listening.
You know when Avatar came out and there was those people who were depressed because they couldn't go to Pandora?
Yes.
I'm a little bit sad that Detective Pikachu's not real.
I understand.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
I was looking at my cat and I was like, man, I love my cat, but do you know what else I would love?
A Pikachu.
If Pikachu was real. I can't wait. It looks so good. And people who think it looks bad, let me tell you something.
Oh.
I love when things look ugly and gross. I love the Gremlins. Those puppets are ugly and weird, and I love it. Beetlejuice, when Alec Baldwin stretches out his face and it looks all weird, it's so weird. And guess what? The Pokemon look weird too. But what do you think they would look like if Pokemon were real? They're not going to look like cartoons. They're going to look like a weird pig circle.
Okay, I can see you feel very passionately about this, and I'm glad that
I've spent a lot of time these past few days thinking about Detective Pikachu and all the implications at play.
And to take a hint from you, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum about it. So you know what? I was kind of thinking about this to myself yesterday. There are two things about the recently released Detective Pikachu trailer that I'm not crazy about. But I also want to say that I think that the concept of it is really interesting. When that Detective Pikachu game came out and like they are essentially doing the same story as in the game, I thought that was kind of fun. I also think, hey, I think Pikachu's cute too. And I like the idea. There's a lot of shots in the trailer of like what life looks like if Pokemon were real. And I think that that's really cool. And it's obviously something that speaks to people around our age group of like, when we were young, we wanted Pokemon to be real, and this is the closest it's ever been, and maybe ever will be, aside from like VR or Pokemon Go for that matter. So I don't want to harsh anybody's buzz here, but it's just there are two things that are kind of keeping me from going as all in as you. The first one is, as you mentioned, the look of the Pokemon. I figured out what it is. It's because when we played the Pokemon game,
right,
the Pokemon and the people are both game characters. So they're both animated. Right. In the Pokemon anime, the people and the Pokemon are both animated. They're both kind of on the same level. Now, with the movie,
they're both real.
Almost. The people are real, but the Pokemon are still like cartoony CGI. Like there's that divide, and of course it's unreasonable to expect it's like, oh, they made real Pokemon or something. Like, don't get me wrong. I know that what I'm expecting or what I would want is not feasible, but it's also just like my brain has a hard time of just like, well, that stuff's just not there. I have a hard time suspending my disbelief. Also, some of those Pokemon look really ugly, and it really turned me off. I know that...
I love how ugly they look. But no, I actually do agree, and I might be being a tad hyperbolic. And there are certainly things that I don't really like about the trailer. Ryan Reynolds just being Deadpool, but he's Pikachu is like the biggest thing that bugs me.
That's the other thing.
That's like, it's like super annoying, but like, I'm just in love with I want the Pokemans to be real, Will. Also, if you think it's weird to see Pokemon next to real people, CGI Pokemon, get ready for the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog film, in which real-life Jim Carrey will be talking to Ben Schwartz as a CGI Sonic the Hedgehog, which I'm also extremely excited for.
I will follow up on that just very briefly. That's the other thing, is that like I feel like I would be in more if Detective Pikachu were seemed like more of a character and less of a Ryan Reynolds joke machine, like his joke avatar of just like, here's Ryan Reynolds, he's not doing a voice, he's just doing the Deadpool jokey jokes, and I'm kind of tired, and I'm tired of that. Like, I really am. Like, I saw Deadpool 2 this year, not crazy about it, and then it's just like, I
did not see Deadpool 2 for that very reason.
Here's more Ryan Reynolds' shtick, and I'm like, I would rather it be I almost hate to be one of these people, but I would genuinely like it better if Detective Pikachu was voiced by Danny DeVito, or like had that sort of like gruff Dennis Franz kind of quality to his voice. Like this just doesn't even seem like a character, unfortunately. So those are the two things that turn me off the most about it.
I'll tell you what, though, I pledged to see this film in theaters. And if you do so as well, we definitely need to have an Elwood City Limits extra cast where we talk about what we thought of Detective Pikachu.
Well, I suppose...
It's a lot to ask of you.
You know what? I suppose if we got a certain amount of Patreon subscribers before Detective Pikachu comes out, what is it, next summer?
Summer 2019, baby. Mark your calendars.
So by summer 2019, if we can get... let's say 15. If we can get 15 Patreon subscribers by summer 2019, fine. I'll go see Detective Pikachu, and we'll have a podcast about it.
Woo!
Patreon.com/Elwood City Limits. And now...
Where were we?
We were at the petition. So DW has enough signatures, and she's going to send it in, and she imagines that she's actually busting Mary Moo Cow out of jail. And there's a funny thing here where it's like Mary Moo Cow and her kids are all in jail, like the kids on her show.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one, what is the relationship between Mary Moo Cow and all the kids on her show? Like, do they live with her? What's going on with that? And then two, why are they incarcerated?
I guess they just go to kids show jail when they're not on TV.
It's very funny. Arthur's like decked out like an old-timey prisoner, like he's in the Green Mile, and he delivers them the petition.
Mary Moo Cow's like, give me your hands, boss. And yeah, so they Mary Moo Cow thinks of a song. She's just like, a petition, here is a petition, spell petition. And the kids are like, PET, something, something, something. And that's kind of the running joke. Also, there's a point here where they go up like another key higher. And it's clear that Mary Moo Cow's voice actor was having trouble hitting those high notes, and I felt really bad for them. Of just like, it sounded like it hurt Mary Moo Cow to do some of the higher notes at the end of this dream sequence. DW actually does get a letter back from the TV studio after she sends in her petition. Arthur correctly predicts that, like even down to some of the syntax in the letter, that it's just basically going to say, thank you for the petition, but we're not going to bring the show back on the air. But as a consolation, DW gets invited to the TV studio to see the set of Mary Moo Cow. She's getting a tour from like a stage hand or like a floor director. Excuse me, looks like the floor director.
Yeah, production assistant.
And she's getting a bunch of all this free stuff, and then she eventually has a crying fit because she realizes that Arthur was right. They're going to bring her all the way out there to tell her it's still canceled, and she doesn't even get to meet Mary because she thought maybe she could talk some sense into Mary Moo Cow about the show not being canceled. So she runs away and then eventually finds Mary Moo Cow's old dressing room, which we find out is being co-opted by, as DW calls her, the boring woman, the woman from the stock show.
There's some crazy details about Mary Moo Cow's dressing room. For one, there's the cowskin rug and chair. For two, in Mary Moo Cow's like drawers, in her like makeup drawers, there's just like baskets full of cud.
Yeah, she has like a box that says cud. It's like it's like her tobacco chew box or something.
Maybe Mary Moo Cow's like Christian Bale, like she's a method actor, like she must be the cow. She actually chews cud.
She's got like a menthol, not a menthol, an Altoids box full of like grass.
Exactly.
Gross.
And then Paddy Jones, the boring woman, walks in. Love the line delivery from the voice actor playing Paddy Jones. Like,
yeah, me too.
Just a perfect like, I am a woman who delivers the stock market news. It's very well done.
It's meant to be very monotone, but it's also like soothing, kind of. I found, and just very pleasant to listen to. And she kind of gently explains to DW of just like, you know, she's like, "Where did you take Mary?" Just like, "I didn't take her anywhere. She just needed a change." And it's implied through these lines. At least you can pick up as an adult. It's just like, oh, Paddy Jones was Mary Moo Cow. And in fact, it gets pretty much confirmed as Mom and Dad Reed find DW, and then Paddy Jones says, "Goodbye." I mean, goodbye. Like, does it a little bit in the Mary Moo Cow voice, and then sings a little bit as DW walks away. And so DW kind of realizes that, oh, Paddy Jones is Mary Moo Cow, which I was wondering.
I almost didn't see coming, by the way. Like, I had it in the back of my mind. I was like, okay, so she's going to be in Mary Moo Cow's dressing room, and like Paddy Jones walks in. But I thought it was going to be like Paddy Jones might take her to introduce her to Mary Moo Cow. Even me, an adult with an adult brain, they did a good job of not foreshadowing too much that Paddy Jones was Mary Moo Cow. And the end reveal of like Paddy Jones sort of letting out the Mary Moo Cow voice, even me, I was like, what?
And I wonder if it ruined DW's immersion with the show at all, if she kind of puts it together that like, oh, that was Mary Moo Cow. So like,
we already established that even in her imagination, Mary Moo Cow has like seams and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, at the end of the episode here, DW eventually relents her 3:30 time slot to Arthur so he can watch Dark Bunny, because she's finally able to move on with the last of Mary Moo Cow. So Arthur goes to watch Dark Bunny, but it turns out that the TV studio has canceled Dark Bunny in order to air classic episodes of Mary Moo Cow, to which, as you said, the bookend here is that Arthur falls to the ground screaming and upsets his popcorn bowl. Like, this is what a move this is.
Oh my goodness. So we complained about the endings last week. There was some like unsatisfying conclusions in last week's episodes.
Yeah.
This is one of the most perfect book-ended Arthur endings ever, because this whole episode, like, I was like, wow, like, I was into it, but also I noticed that Arthur was being extra malicious in reveling in the demise of Mary Moo Cow. Like, he was just, like, really rubbing it in DW's face this whole episode, and now I understand why. It was they were justified in giving Arthur his just desserts, as he realizes that not only is his favorite show now canceled, but it's been replaced by Mary Moo Cow, and we just, like, freeze frame on Arthur screaming in anguish, and it's like, what a great ending. What a hilarious episode.
You know, I wasn't thinking about it that way, but it makes sense, because he totally gets his just desserts for how, well, kind of mean he was throughout the whole episode. So it kind of serves him right. Although if you think about it, it's like canceling Batman the Animated Series for Barney reruns. Imagine. Man, that's rough. All right, so we're going to get into the second half of our episode after a word from us.
And now a word from me, Lucas Mancini of Elwood City Limits. Don't forget to chat with your Elwood City Limits pals on social media, with facebook.com/Elwood City Limits or at ECL Podcast on Twitter. We also have a Tumblr, elwoodcitylimits.tumblr.com, and an Instagram at Elwood City Limits. If you want to send us a question, send us an email and get it read on the show at elwoodcitylimits@gmail.com. You can find the entire episode archive at elwoodcitylimits.libsyn.com or on your favorite podcast service. If we aren't on your preferred podcast app, let us know, and we'll do our best to get on it. Thanks as always for supporting us here at Elwood City Limits. Now, back to the show.
And we're back. Okay, so let's get into the second half of this episode. It's a Buster one, and it's called Bitsy's Bow. This is where I first learned what the
2018 version of this episode would be called Bitsy's Bay.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Very quick. This is where I first learned as a kid what bow meant.
I had to look it up when I was watching this again.
So the cold open is about how close Buster and Bitsy are. And I like this. They have like a nice little handshake that they do when they see each other. Up high, down low, in the middle, and away we go. I thought that was cute.
We get a really moment that really hit me with Bitsy and Buster going to see a movie together. I used to go see movies with my mom all the time. That was one of the things we shared. So I was like, "Aw, that's sweet." Also, when they're going to see the movie, if you look at the background, just because I paused this right now, I'm watching the episode again, you can still see 5,000 explosions and a supernova ever playing at the theater in Elwood City. It's like Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It like never leaves theaters.
Or like Titanic in its original run.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably a closer example because they're both probably epics.
Well, if there's ever an evergreen piece of film, it's probably 5,000 Explosions of a Supernova. I want the Criterion release of 5,000 Explosions of a Supernova.
Werner Herzog's 5,000 Explosions at a Supernova. There are 5,000 explosions, but there is only one supernova, and the true supernova is in the darkness of a man's heart.
By the 278th explosion, I began to ponder whether or not I was still fit to be called a man in this world.
Arthur is an aardvark himself, but he has a dog. Why must he be the terrible master of this beast when he himself is not a man?
Oh man, that's really funny. Oh boy,
I wonder what would Werner Herzog think if we showed him we showed him Arthur. Like, what he'd be like, there are animals, but they wear clothes. Does that mean they feel shame? Is that why they clothe the animal bodies?
Why does the young man eat so much, yet he stays the same size?
The children, they do not age. they are stuck due to their minds not grow.
The little girl is clearly the smartest on the show. I would love to know. Are you kidding me? I need this now. Oh, brother.
You've seen, to bring it back to Detective Pikachu, you've seen the article where the person introduced Pokemon Go to Werner Herzog?
I don't know if I have.
After this is done, that should be the first thing you do.
I'm opening a tab.
Because it borderlines on parody. Like what we're saying right now, like Werner Herzog's response to getting Pokemon explained to him is like insane.
Okay, I have it open in a tab. I'm gonna look at it after this episode.
He's like, why must the creatures fight each other?
Classic Herzog. Love that guy. Okay. We're so giddy today. We're getting sidetracked a lot. Yeah, it's so like you said, Buster going to the movies. We've got them kind of going to the supermarket and seeing like how fast they can kind of get all their groceries together. That reminded me of me and my mom. We used to go grocery shopping all the time when I was younger. So and especially as kind of showing the single parent lifestyle here with Buster resonated with me as well. But I'm very glad, even here, just here in the cold open, I'm glad we're getting kind of a deeper characterization of Bitsy, because if you remember back from the first season, she was kind of like always afraid. She was like kind of a germaphobe. She was afraid that
like my memories of Bitsy from the first season is just like the episode where she won't let him go without the ridiculous bathing cap on, and like all the like, oh Buster, you can't do this.
Yeah, it's just kind of a lame one-note character, but now she seems more like a fleshed out person, which I'm very happy for. But that all may change when Buster meets Bitsy's boyfriend, who kind of appears in the cold open as like this shadowy rabbit in like a trench coat and like 7 feet tall. The actual episode begins with Bionic Bunny, actually. Arthur and Buster are watching it simultaneously. And Bionic Bunny encounters this little girl that he finds out is like a crab-shaped alien. And
this like this transformation, like it's a cartoon and it's like very cartoonish, so it's not that creepy, but when you think about what's happening, it's very like the alien sort of like the little girl grows an exoskeleton and like lobster claws, and she's got like goop dripping from her eye. Like the way it's portrayed isn't that creepy, but like when you think about what's happening, it's like, ooh.
And this is also where I took note that Bionic Bunny, it's the same voice actor who does Mr. Ratburn. I believe his name is Arthur Holden, I want to say. And his voice as Bionic Bunny is very underrated. You hear it a lot here of just like he has to put a lot of flourish on what he says, because it's the stereotypical like, I'm the hero kind of thing. And it sounds like it takes quite a bit of effort to like put all that gusto into those lines. And Buster and Arthur, as they're watching the show, have this like alien detector toy, and it's like you press the button on it, and then it supposedly determines whether or not someone's an alien, and that's how they figure out that the little girl is indeed Kodo of the Crab Nebula. And I will say they're also watching it. They're not in the same room. They're watching it on their own TVs, but they're on the phone with each other. And Buster gets call waiting, and he has to give the phone to his mother, who takes the phone into her room, and they miss the rest of the episode. Buster says later, he apologizes. He says, like, my mom was on the phone for like an hour with somebody, and I don't know who it was. And she's like, she's been doing that a lot lately. And then Muffy kind of comes up, and she's just like,
oh, this moment, the timing in this moment is so expert. So Muffy like slams shut her locker door, like you don't even realize Muffy's there, but she slams shut her locker door, and so then that's reveals of Muffy, and she just goes, boyfriend.
And Buster's like, no, my mom doesn't have a boyfriend. She's just like, has she gotten any mysterious deliveries of flowers? Which she has. And it's like, every once in a while, does she look off into space and just go, ah? Buster's like, yeah, I guess once or twice. And Muffy's convinced it's a boyfriend. How does Muffy know this much about love?
It's just one of her interests. I think she like reads a lot of like romantic fiction, or I don't know. It's just, I think Muffy is the right character to give this exposition though, of all the kids. Yeah.
I just kind of
Muffy or Fern maybe, because Fern would have read some sort of poetry about love, though it doesn't seem like something that Fern would be that into really. So I think Muffy is the right choice.
Yeah.
And she really makes it work. Like this is some great like delivery from Buffy, like explaining all this stuff, and Buster sort of cluelessly being like, yeah, I did that, but that doesn't necessarily mean, and then Buffy just like keeps laying on the things of like, well, does he do this? Did he do this?
We see that Ratburn's handing back, I believe it's book reports, and Buster actually gets an A, and that makes him suspicious and eventually leads him to the idea that his mother is dating Mr. Ratburn, and this part of the episode is excellent. I loved this.
Yes.
So it's Buster imagining like the various stages of the relationship between his mother and Mr. Ratburn. So the first one is all three of them at dinner, and Mr. Ratburn is just like, Buster, you can have the last slice of pie if you can guess the number I'm thinking of between 1 and 10. And it turns out he's actually thinking of the number. I might have said letter. I meant number. He's actually thinking of the number pi. And then it's like he laughs really hard at his own joke, and then he like necks the last piece of pie. He just upturns it into his mouth. It's so, and then the noises he makes while he's chewing, I can't explain it, but he's just like he's so pleased with himself. It's hilarious.
That's one of two incredible pie like pie at the dinner table moments in this episode are like the two most like standout moments, like these pie set pieces. I love the pie humor. We then get in the next scene, it's time for the throwaway character of the week. And that is Marriage Elvis.
Yes.
They
apparently elope to Vegas and get this guy, this Elvis impersonator, to officiate their wedding.
Just one of the regular Arthur voice actors was like, oh yeah, I got an Elvis impersonation.
Yes.
You want me to bust that one out?
Big time.
Because they really go, there's some good impersonations in Arthur, but this is like above and beyond. Like you could tell the voice actors having so much fun with this.
Yes. I've heard worse Elvis impressions. This one's pretty good.
Not the only celebrity impression in this episode, by the way.
And then Ratburn corrects him. He's like, "That's a run-on sentence. You should put some commas in there to break it up," which I appreciated. And then the last one is Buster's delivery is just like, and then they'll have children, and it's like it's horrible in a way. It
is like a scene out of a Gremlins movie. Like, so they've had these kids and they're a mix of Bitsy and Mr. Ratburn, but they have Mr. Ratburn's face. And what's hilarious is they also have the qualities of Mr. Ratburn in that they're like, I want to play algebra. Read me a book, a really big book. And they're all like grabbing at Buster.
And they've all got these like, they're in diapers, so they're meant to be like little children, and they kind of look like kangaroos almost, because it's like they look like Mr. Ratburn if he had long ears, like long bunny ears, and they have these like teeth. They all have like these full sets of teeth, and it's really gross. And yeah, one of them's like, "Read me a big book in French."
I forgot about that.
And they have these awful voices, and they're not like caricatures. They're not like meant to be disgusting or something, but they just like, the more you look at them, the more unsettling they are, and they're like pulling at Buster and stuff like this. And so it's
kind of like our friends in the Detective Pikachu movie, Jigglypuff and Psyduck. The more you look at them, Mr. Mime, the more disgusted you become. Dude, I implore you, go to that trailer and pause it when it shows Mr. Mime, and then like zoom really close on Mr. Mime's like skin, because like you could see Mr. Mime's pores. Like you could see the little like tufts of old man hair on Mr. Mime's head. It's crazy.
Don't worry, dude. Twitter's already done that for me. Mr. Ratburn walks by them, and Buster's like begging Arthur to do something, and he's just like, Arthur, you gotta get him, like you gotta convince him not to date my mom. Tell him my mother's ugly and crazy. It's just, I love that line. He's just so desperate of just like what would steer him away. And then Arthur's like, "Did you know that Buster's mom has a giant lizard that she feeds rats to, or feeds mice to?" And he's like, "Really? That's fascinating." And normally it would repel somebody else, but Ratburn finds it really interesting, which is a great touch. Well, he rules out Mr. Ratburn because he like goes to his mother's room and begs his mother not to marry Mr. Ratburn.
We get a great delivery from Buster. He goes, "Please don't marry Mr. Ratburn, Mom." And then she explains to him that she's not dating Mr. Ratburn, but she is dating a man named, he's got a very regular
Harry
name.
Mills.
Harry Mills.
This is the introduction of Harry Mills to the Arthur canon. He'll be back. Yeah, so then Buster's like, "Who's Harry Mills?" And he's like, apparently he's a sports writer for the newspaper, and tells jokes.
He loves kids.
And he's loves kids. But Buster's still a little suspicious. We get the return here of Conspiracy Buster, as he thinks that he's like,
"That sounds good, almost too good."
And so he thinks that Harry Mills may very well be an alien. And we get a few more like Buster imaginations here. One of them is that Bitsy is dating this robot that looks like a bunny. Like he just looks like a middle-aged bunny, and then brings them a pie, and then presses a button on the center of the pie, which transports them to their spaceship. And then the robot turns into one of the crab aliens from Bionic Bunny. And they're just like, why does a robot need to turn into a crab?
So this is the only thing I had remembered from this episode. Like, the imagery of the robot pressing the pie button, like has stuck with me to this day.
Me too.
And then like there's the stuff with like the crab people. She puts on a bib because when people go to like a seafood restaurant, they put a bib with a lobster on it on. She puts a bib with a human person on it because she's gonna eat the people.
Yeah. I also think about the pie with the button in the center of it from time to time. Like, that stuck with me, too. It looks like a satisfying button press. So Buster's afraid that, of course, he's an alien and he's going to abduct them. But then the night of the dinner comes. He's got his alien detector armed and ready. But as he meets Harry at the door, Harry acts...
Whoa. We got to talk about how Buster proves that the alien detector works.
Oh, right, yes.
And that is, he's watching Do You Want to Be a Millionaire? And he presses the alien detector on Regis Philbin, and it, like, goes off that he's an alien. And Buster takes that as confirmation that it's, like, a foolproof alien detector. He's like, of course, it works.
A Who Wants to Be a Millionaire reference. We really are in the year 2000 in this one.
Also, like, one of the voice actors, much like someone was probably excited to bust out their Elvis impression, someone else busts out their Regis impression to varying degrees of success, but I appreciated it nevertheless.
So, yeah, Buster lets Harry in. Harry tells him a knock-knock joke and immediately gets on his good side. Accidentally breaks Buster's alien detector, so unfortunately the results will be inconclusive. But Harry seems to be doing pretty well. He tells some jokes at dinner, and... Buster really takes a shine to him. He accidentally puts his tie in the crab chowder, by the way. And that kind of has... Everybody gets a laugh from that one. And then he brings out the dessert that he brought with him, which is also a pie. Buster, again, imagines that it's like some sort of alien horror that he's brought with him, but it's actually just Boston cream pie. Again, I gotta get me some Boston cream pie, son.
I know, same.
It's like, I just gotta know. I gotta know. But he seems to be pretty much on the level, and he sees that his mom is really happy with him. He he makes her laugh a lot, and she seems very happy. But then Buster gets a little bit sad, and we get a very nice scene here where Bitsy's tucking Buster in, and essentially he's being very reserved at first about how he feels about Harry, and Bitsy takes that to mean that Buster didn't really like him, and she immediately is just like, well, I don't have to see him anymore if you don't like him. And Buster's like, no, I do like him. It's just that if you're gonna, it just seems like you're going to be spending all of your time with Harry now. And then Bitsy convinces him, like, no, that's not going to happen. In fact, she says, you're always going to be the most important person in my life. Oh, geez, I'm tearing up now. It's so nice. Like, it's, again,
yes, it is very nice.
We've talked in previous episodes about, like, the representation of Buster and his family unit as representing single parents and parents who you don't see all the time. And this was a very nice, it felt very real, of like a child kind of seeing their parents in a new relationship and then thinking like, oh, I'm not going to be their number one, or I'm not going to see them as much, but this is very much convincing Buster that that's not going to be the case. It's great.
No, this is Arthur when it's trying to moralize at its best, where, this is something that could have, if done poorly, really gone into after-school special territory, like some real, like, Degrassi Junior High. But as per usual, like, when Arthur's tackling more sensitive topics like Buster's parents' divorce and what it's like for your parent to start dating after they've gotten into divorce, it does it in the most eloquent and realistic way possible, and it doesn't come off as overly sentimental or dumbed down. It comes off as real and genuine, and it's tremendous in how it executes it well, as compared to some other shows meant for similar age groups. It's one of those special things that makes Arthur, set itself apart from other kids shows for people of similar ages.
Yeah, and I think it was handled really well. And this is pretty much the end of the episode here, as we see that Bitsy and Harry's relationship is still continuing, and Buster's in on it too. He really he's really taken a shine to Harry and vice versa. And they're at a hockey game, a local hockey game.
It looks like it's a Boston Bruins game.
Yeah,
like the other team's shirt logos and colors. It could be like a fake version of the Habs. It's kind of hard to tell. The other team logo is kind of nonsense. Yeah. But it sure does look like the Boston Bruins. Could this be another clue about Elwood City's location within Massachusetts or possibly New England. But it really, really does. It's the Boston Bruins colors, and I think it's just a B logo.
Yeah, it's like it looks like it might be a D, but like the Boston Bruins essentially. These are
the Boston.
These are pretty much 1-to-1. You're right. Good eye. And
we see that Mr. Rapper's also a fan. He's got the giant inflatable finger. And he appears to talk about how you shouldn't feed rats to a large lizard. It makes them sluggish.
Yeah, it's his casual wear. He's got on like a red sweater and what's his pants situation? He's got like on these green, might be denim pants. I don't know, but it's just like him
like
on
green khakis. Yeah,
his sportswear. And then Buster and Harry whip out the alien detectors, and Harry's like, "Yep, definitely an alien." And they're clearly on each other's good side as the episode ends. So let's take a look at everything as a whole. Lucas, what did you think of The Last of Mary Moo Cow?
I loved The Last of Mary Moo Cow. I was laughing throughout the whole episode. I was really got a kick out of Arthur relishing in Mary Moo Cow's demise. That whole stuff with the LAST is really fun. All the stuff in the movie studio is fun with like DW like kind of freaking out. All the Dark Bunny stuff is good. And then the jokes about the stock market and 3:30 p.m. DW talking about how she's going through a trauma. Then there's the fundraiser segment. That's not the fundraiser, but the petition segment's all fun with the Mary Moo Cow kids being in jail. And I really liked the conclusion of the episode. Like I said before, it's bookended in a great way with Arthur getting his comeuppance and in an almost Twilight Zone-like twist of, but there was time now to watch Dark Bunny, except Dark Bunny's canceled and he's forced to watch Mary Moo Cow. It's really the worst case scenario for Arthur. I don't know. I really got a big kick out of this episode, and I found it very funny throughout.
I agree. I like this episode a lot too. It was interesting to kind of have the dynamic switched a little bit of like DW, the protagonist, and Arthur being very much her antagonist. And like you said, he kind of gets his, excuse me, his comeuppance in the end, and it felt very earned. And I felt that it kind of wrapped up really well. I think it's just a very good, complete package. It's kind of something that you don't really think to tackle in a kids show of just like a show being canceled and kind of how much.
That's true. It's another unique topic.
It's
that you don't see in other shows
because often Mary Moo Cow is just like the butt of a joke. It's just like, well, it's what DW watches, so it's like Kitty and Saccharin and all this kind of stuff. But no, it's like DW really likes this TV show, and it clearly means something to her that they don't even really get into all that much, but they don't have to. It's just like it's something that DW genuinely enjoys and like goes through, as she herself says, some manner of trauma in trying to process it not being there anymore. But it's of course a lot lighter than that. I thought a lot of the humor was good. The parts we see of Dark Bunny I think are inspired. I bet they had a lot of fun kind of doing a pastiche of Batman the Animated Series. I certainly liked seeing it. And yeah, I think there's almost not a lot for me to say that you haven't already touched on, other than, it's a very solid, fun episode with kind of a good ending. I'd say that personally, of the two, I tend to swing towards Bitsy's bow a little bit more, and like we kind of got into, and I feel like we've talked about quite a bit. There are some things that when Arthur decides to kind of go a bit more towards moralizing, I guess, for lack of a better word, they tend to do very well. And I think that the situation with Buster's family is clearly one that they spend a lot of time on, and they have thought through thoroughly, and I think it really shows. This is a really interesting way to approach a more common situation with children of divorce, where it's like your parents start dating somebody else and kind of how that factors into your life. I feel like a lot of times we see that on TV, it's from the perspective of the parents and not so much from the children who have to kind of get used to this new person in their life. And I thought this was a great way to approach it. It's really funny about how like Buster like goes through all his conspiracy theories and all of his like fears, and then eventually ends up it feels really good when the end result is basically Bitsy is dating a grown-up version of Buster, essentially, in the non-weird way, but this guy who Buster really likes, and like it just kind of all's well that ends well in that sense. And I know that we're going to be seeing more of Harry here and there from now on. I like him as a character. I think he's kind of came across very well. And yeah, I really love this episode. It's not difficult for me to say it's one of my favorite of the season.
I tend to agree. It's also, both of these episodes together are two of my favorites of the season thus far. I think it's a really funny episode, and I think sometimes I tend to check out with some of the more moralizing Arthur episodes. It's a slippery slope, because sometimes when they're, telling lessons to kids, I'm an adult, so it's like, I've already learned this lesson, but this episode, like, walks that line perfectly, where it's very sentimental, and it's talking about a really applicable real-life situation, but it's also extremely funny. All of the things going on in Buster's head, like all the fictional scenarios he comes up with, from the aliens to the Mr. Ratburn kids, are all really, really funny. And then there's just like great moments like, please don't marry Mr. Ratburn's mom, and Mr. Ratburn telling, wedding Elvis not to use a run-on sentence, like Regis is an alien. There's a bunch of really great moments in this episode, and much like the episode before it, but for very different reasons, comes to a really, really good conclusion that leaves you feeling really satisfied, which can be hard, especially with some of the episodes we've been watching recently. So I really did appreciate Bitsy's bow as well.
Well, I'm glad that we finally. I mean, I'm sure. I feel like it's probably happened in season 5 so far, but it's like this.
Yeah, there's definitely one other episode I really liked in season 5. I can't put my finger on it right now, but there was one I liked before. But this is the first both hitting it out of the park.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what season we're in, it's always good to find one that this just a great 1-2 punch of an Arthur episode, and this definitely applies. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode of Elwood City Limits. The end of season 5 creeps closer and closer. Before the end of the year, I dare say, knock on wood, that we'll be on to season 6 and beyond. So thank you again for being here with us. Make sure to rate and review wherever you find the podcast. We would really appreciate it. And let us know that you did. We may even read your review on the air. You can do that, I know, on Apple Podcasts. I think you may be able to do so on Google Play. And you can also do that on our Facebook as well. We've gotten a few 5-star reviews there as well. Let us know what you think. Next, on the next edition of Elwood City Limits, we're going to be talking about Just Desserts and The Big Dig. Neither of these I remember.
I wonder if The Big Dig has to do with Dig, the old LucasArts game.
I'm not familiar with that one.
All I know about it is one of the characters in Monkey Island, they have a big pin that says, "Ask me about Dig."
So it must a true success then. Well, until then, until we figure out exactly what's going on here on Arthur and for Elwood City Limits, my name is Will Young, and for Lucas Mancini,
go to the title card.
We'll see you next time.